Katie. I don't know
Hello.
if the sheriff is going to be able to.
Thank you all for being here too, because I think it's good for y'all to see what it's about too. You know, basically when I started this position a little over about a year and a half ago, one of the first things we were told is we're going to do ePollbooks. You know, I am probably on the cusp of technology in my generation. You know, I can remember Commodore 64 was my first computer. I feel fairly confident with computers, but I know some of y'all may not be as confident. These aren't computers. There's nothing you can change on them. All you're doing is checking their ID, making sure that they are the same person. You cannot hurt it. I mean, I guess if you threw it up against the wall, and hopefully you don't get to that in the 12 hours that you all, 12 plus hours that you all are there. But you know, there's nothing really to be afraid on this. If you're able to touch and spell a name, you're good. So I want to kind of make everybody feel comfortable with it. I'm more of a hands-on person, so I'll talk a little bit, but then I really want everybody to come up here and touch the machines. I'll come around, you ask questions, I want you to try different scenarios. But you know, I'll just go ahead and get started. So the day that you all, the morning that you all go to your precinct, typically this is what you're going to have your ePollbooks in. It's a case that holds 2 of the ePollbooks. In my right hand, this is a Mifi unit, and I'll go over that a little bit more. Mifi, so it's my Wi-Fi basically. The books that you have, they do cover most of the duties that you have. These are the ones we used for last year. They're going to be updated. You can ignore anything in them that deals with provisionals, because obviously this year we don't have provisionals because it's not a federal election year. And Kentucky doesn't deal with provisionals like some of the larger states. So the county clerks met with 10X and State Board of Elections, and that was one of the recommendations that they had, was to remove provisionals out of it. But for the most part, this will give you a good idea. Take it with you the day of the election if you're there. And I have, for the county clerks that are here, I have more books if you want to take a handful back with you. So you get to the precinct the morning of the election. It really is easy to set these up. The recommendation I'm going to give you, and this is, I'm sorry, I'm not Bradley. I'm just not Bradley. But the I've been to 12, 13, 14 of his trainings, so I feel like I can do it now in my sleep. But the Mifi unit, what this is, it is an encrypted system that allows for communication with the county clerk of the machine. It is not connected to the internet. It is, because it's the way it is built, it only connects to that Mifi, and that Mifi can only connect to this. So I know that there's a lot of concerns. Now the Mifi, or the touchpads can work without this though. So if you decide, you know, some of the counties in Eastern Kentucky, there's no chance they're getting any Wi-Fi in their precinct. So it can work without it, but it is good. So the county clerk would be able to see what power you're on your touchpad. So if you don't have them plugged in, they might call your precinct and say, get them plugged in. They may be able to take, you know, if you're having issues with it, they can get onto their control panel and see what issues might be wrong. It also helps with getting the information at the end of the day. So if you don't connect to a Mifi, it means that the county clerk is going to have to do a little bit more work when the touchpads get back to their office. So make their lives easier and use it if you can. But you are, the day of the election, going to take that Mifi. Typically, they're going to be in the case. They have enough room to fit in the case. What you want to do with the Mifi first, though, is turn it on. Because when you plug it in, it looks like it's turned on. So you turn this on first, and you can see it's coming little thing, and then you plug it in. The Mifi just needs to be within 30 feet of the touchpads. So it can be plugged in, put in a corner, forgotten about the rest of the day. It can survive without the battery life, but you're not going to need to touch it the rest of the day. So you're fine just plugging it in, turning it on, plugging it in, and forgetting it until the end of the day. Okay, and then these nice little cases hold your touchpads. So they fit in, typically you can get 2 in each one. You'll take those out. You will have cords. Now, I think you all have all requested the longer cords too, haven't you? The longer cords, they come with 3-foot cords, but State Board of Elections is going to provide 10-foot cords. That way you have some room. The clerks might have to purchase extension cords, but that's going to depend on the precinct that you're at. Some of them are better than others.
And you also might just have to look at setting your table in a different location where it would be closer. And sometimes that's doable, sometimes it's not, especially in the school, like where you are, and Jane, where you are. Sometimes your location is your location, but we'll start thinking about that.
Yeah. Bradley says when you open these up, it's like reading a book. I'm smaller than he is, so it's difficult for me, but it is just open it up like that. The case is pretty neat. It just sits up right up here. And so you're going to turn it on. I'm not going to plug these in. I charged them up yesterday, so they're not, they're charged up completely. But essentially, with the iPads, there is a button on the top. You need to press it for about 10 seconds, and then you'll see the Apple. So how many people have played with iPads before? Okay, so I mean, it is an iPad, but it's an iPad that's been wiped from everything else. And so now you're on this screen, and I will, let's see, I'm going to real quick log out of this so that I can show you. Oh, I have to. I'm going to go through exactly so you can see, because I know you all might be able to see this, but everybody else probably can't. Okay, so you turn the touchpad on. Again, hold for about 10 seconds. And if you've seen this is so cool. I mean, you're going to be sitting on this side, and the voter's going to be on the other. It's so nice. I mean, those paper rosters, I know that they're a lot. And I can tell you, my last name is Sketchfield. Nobody can spell it right. Talk about trying to teach my children how to spell that name. That was not fun. Okay, so here we go. You turn it on. You have on this screen the settings, which is on any type of iPad, but then what you care about is this bottom button. Try to say that real fast. State of Kentucky, it will walk you through everything you do with this. So it says, to start the election, press the button. So you press, and it comes up with the start screen. Can everybody see this pretty well? Okay, so on the start screen, you have over in the left-hand corner, the settings. You really won't do much with this, but this can change if you want it to be a little bit brighter, if you're in a sunny spot, if you want to kind of change that. So other than that, you all really don't need to worry about that. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, the 38, I'm going to go stand over here a second. That is the asset ID. This is really for your county clerk. This is for their inventory. They kind of know, asset 38's in A101. So, but if you have an issue with it, you'll want to look at that number. So when you call your county clerk, you can say, this is the one that I'm working at. And again, if you're connected to the Mifi, they're going to be able to go in and see what the issues are. So if you think about, how many touchpads do you have for full county?
I think we had 60 something.
Right, so they're going to be able to go straight to that touchpad and be able to figure out what the issue is. The next little is device ID. Again, this is giving them more information about this particular device. Right below that is the precinct. So that is going to be the precinct that you're assigned to. So when you log in, go ahead and check that. Mistakes can happen. Make sure that you're checking in voters in the right precinct. And then no user logged in yet. That's because we haven't started the election. We don't have a user logged in. Over in the right corner, I kind of love this. I'm a data geek. I love this type of information. That top number is the total amount of voters registered at your precinct or in your county. And then the number below that is going to be the number registered in that precinct. So that's how many voters you could have show up on any particular election day. The very far right, are county clerks are you all doing 2 in each precinct right now?
I only have 1 per precinct. I'm a county that didn't get.
Okay.
Really want to.
Well, and I am with you. But one of the things you can do, if you want to just do partial, they can switch them so that you could double up and just you wouldn't do an all county rollout yet. So that's something you could do.
Okay.
But for those that do have 2 touchpads in your precinct, there's what is called sideways connectivity between these touchpads. They talk to each other even if there isn't Wi-Fi. So even if they're not connected to the internet, they're going to talk to each other. What that means, if you have 2 clerks signing in people, left, right, sitting right next to each other, and I come up and I get checked in, I'm going to show up on the other touchpad. So I don't think we have this problem, but you never know. Somebody couldn't show up and go to 2 different people and try to vote twice. So they do talk to each other. So the top number is going to tell you how many people have checked in on your touchpad. The bottom number is going to tell you how many has checked in the precinct. So that's the 2 machines talking to each other. Yes?
If we just have 1 clerk, why would we need 2 touchpads?
Some places, some counties would prefer 2 in case something happened to the 1. Yes, ma'am.
Well, you check people in lots quicker on the touchpads than you do the paper. So really, to me, it would be wise only to have to use 1 because otherwise you'll have people checked in that can't go vote.
And that's something that we discovered in the general election that did happen. You heard about long lines, and they weren't long lines to check in. It was, we checked everybody in and they're now standing over there trying to vote. And obviously the problem with that is if you check in really quick and you say, yay, I'm checked in, I'm going to go vote, and then you have an hour wait.
Then you're going to leave and maybe not vote.
Right. And that's a problem. So if you're checking people in, one of the things you do want to look, excuse me, and I'm sorry, I'm sick today, so if I have to run over and get some more cough drops. If you're checking people in and you notice there's a line after they check in to go vote, slow down a little bit. Because you don't want to disenfranchise anybody from voting. Somebody might have an appointment to go to, all type of things. So, because once they checked in, they can't recheck in.
Connie, did you have that issue?
No.
Connie used it last year. She's one of my smaller precincts, and so we did it in my 2 smallest. We're doing it 2 smallest, 2 largest this year. And she loved it, and actually the other clerk did too. But no checking it in too fast or anything.
No, even if we did,
Did you have 2 in your precinct?
Just
we
one.
just had the 1.
They just had 1.
I was thinking at one of our trainings that Brad did, that they advised you only to have 1 over.
It's up to you. Because I'm from Fayette County. Fayette County only has DRE voting machines. So they're all electronic. The problem with that is the line to check in, you get through like that, but when you've got to scroll through 18 different screens, it takes a while. So it also depends on what you're using as your voting system.
So would it be advisable to send the spare, if you have two for each precinct, would it be advisable just to keep the spare in the office?
I would keep it in the box at the precinct.
In the box?
And that, because it's already going to have that information downloaded on it, it's not going to be useful for any other precinct unless you get it reprogrammed. But that way, if something were to happen, you just get the other one out and turn it on. Okay, so I am going to channel Bradley right now. What do you think you do to start the election? Yes! See, it's really simple. Oh, I know. I've seen a lot of his trainings. Okay, I need to, and this is another thing for the deputies and county clerks. You see this little red button up here? This will not appear on election day, but what this does when we're training a group of people, if you hit training mode, the little X, if it recognizes my finger, and you reset the database, it's going to clear out all of your check-ins so you can reuse the little cards. So it's a easy little thing. Okay, so when you hit start, you're taken to the screen that asks for a name. This is whoever is going to be at the touchpad needs to go ahead and put in their name. Today, when you come up here and play on them, you don't have to do that. I mean, for me, I'll just put gobbledygook because I'm not going to be checking. But the day of the election, put in your name, and it will not go to the next screen unless you put in a name. Okay, so unlock device, because we're going to start the election. And this is going to be the screen you come back to over and over and over. Now, you have a yellow and a green. What do you think's the easier one to do? Green, right. This screen has a lot of the information that was on the previous screen. Again, the device IDs, which precinct you're in. It has your name, clerk. It'll have whoever logged in there. It will also show you the number in the county registered, number in that precinct registered, and show you the check-ins. Other things that you want to look at, obviously it has the power button. So let's say you get down to 30%, right anywhere around there, I'd get it plugged in if you don't have it plugged in already, because you don't want to get hit with a rush and kind of forget about it, and then all of a sudden it's at 1. And we've all seen the commercial where they're saying, I'm dying. I'm dying. And I have an 18 and a 15-year-old child, and I hear it a lot.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I was trying to do step by step when you were doing this. At first, I thought you said that when we turned it on, after we turned it on, the Mifi, then it needed to automatically be plugged in. Is that?
The Mifi, yes. You'll turn the Mifi on and then plug it in.
Oh, okay. Okay, then
That's the little thing.
yes.
That's a little thing, yeah.
But you're talking about.
Yeah, this one, they both can be plugged in. It's up to you. I would go ahead and leave it plugged in if you can.
I think we did that last year.
Yeah, just because then you don't run into any issues. Now I've got to get my cards. Now for training purposes, these are driver's licenses. So we're going to pretend that they're driver's licenses. The easiest way to do it is to scan a driver's license. It makes the biggest difference in the world. Your hardest thing to do on election day or today is going to be figuring out what distance that barcode needs to be away from the camera. I mean, that truly is the hardest, but once you get it, right, once you get it, you're good. So I'm gonna hit driver's license scan. And what it does is, this is an iPad, it has a camera in the back of it. And so what you want to do is scan it. Now, Bradley, everybody, what does he say? No. Okay, the girls, did you all go to any of his? It was, that you put it in your left hand, Italian something, I don't know. I'm not Bradley. You're gonna take it behind, find where that camera is, and it automatically pulls up that voter. We hope. You're gonna have to double check. There are some voters that might, a junior and a senior that live at the same something, you still wanna verify their identity. Now, I'm gonna remind you, you do not have to require a driver's license. You cannot say only driver's licenses. Do not do that because you're gonna get yourself in trouble. You're gonna get your county clerk in trouble and you don't wanna do that. But you can say, hey guys, it's gonna be a much quicker check-in if you have a driver's license. But do not require only driver's licenses. When we look at this one, this is Matt Damon. We all like Matt Damon. For him, he signed up as a military absentee. All of these cards that we have different issues attached to them. We have some regular voters, but we have some absentee voters or already voted, so that you can see what the different errors you might get. So for this one, this is somebody that's requested a military ballot, and they're allowed, they have a little bit, it's overseas and uniform voters, they have a little bit different rules applied to them. If they have returned their absentee to the county clerk, they would show up with an authorization to vote, and because everybody would prefer to vote at a precinct typically than mailing in an absentee. So if they present to you that authorization to vote, you would say, absolutely, here you go, and and obviously confirm either address, birth date, something, make sure it's the right person, and you say, get voter signature. This is when the screen does a really cool flip. You just have to turn it over. They will sign. Now they can sign with their finger or they can sign with the stylus. I prefer the finger, even though you all, county clerks, you might want to get some cloths. I will tell you, I cleaned some of the iPads. I helped Franklin, who did all of their counties, switch to a new operating system on their iPads. They're kind of the pizza. I mean, it kind of made me feel like everybody ate pizza that day. So you might want to get some cloths for them to clean. But they will sign their signature. Either you or them can hit the green button. You can, if the signature didn't come through, it was only dots, you can have them re-sign. You do want to make sure that it's a legible signature, because if something were to happen, you can compare it to their voter registration card. I'm trying to think, this screen, it still shows, and this is another way for the voter to be able to verify, it does keep their birth date and address up. So when they sign, they could see something wrong too. And then you can always go home. So from the screen, you can either issue the ballot, you can have them sign the touchpad again, or if something were to happen, they said, oh no, I forgot I have an appointment in 20 minutes, they have not yet signed in. When you hit issue ballot, that's when they've signed in. They can't leave. Well, they can. Don't hold them hostage. That's not good. But okay, so here we're going to go ahead and issue ballot. Now, on your paper rosters, every one of you has to put your initials, correct? How many times have people forgotten? Not Trimble, Shelby, and Oldham, but there are some counties that don't always give their initials. So it will not, if I hit done right here, it's not going to do anything. We've got to have the initials in there. And what's really cool, at the end of the day, the county clerks are going to be sent a PDF, and their rosters are going to look just like they do right now, except for all of this will just be electronically put into it. So that makes it kind of cool. So it will have that initial side right there. So this is going to tell you now, how many of the counties, do you all have cheat sheets for the ballots? Some counties have to have cheat sheets for their ballots.
Sample ballots?
No, the ballot coding, a little paper that goes, you know, kind of make sure. We hope to kind of standardize the balloting, the coding. We're not there yet. It's a pretty huge task, but we hope to get there. But you're going to have right here, it's going to show you what the ballot type is. So if it is an election that, a precinct that has multiple ballot styles, you'll compare, make sure that they get the right ballot style. Does that make sense? Am I moving too fast?
Yeah, is that something we have to know about?
No. I mean, it's no different than what you're looking at in the book that's going to say which ballot style to go on.
Oh, like if they had school board.
Right. Yeah. So you complete check-in, and it gives you a hurrah screen that says, good job. You did it. Any questions about that process?
You do have to put whether they selected paper or electronic.
True. Okay, that's yes. It defaults, and I'll go ahead and check in another voter. Here's a regular voter. So I'm going to do driver's license scan again. Okay, so we're going to look at the information on there, make sure that they are the person that they say they are, check their address, or check their birth date, make sure they're the right person. Now, what do you do if they look at it and they go, oh, wait, I moved? What do you do?
We checked ours, we checked ours in our paper book, and then if we had questions after that, then we told them.
Well, I mean, the answer is yes, call your county clerk if you don't know. But county clerks, let's say they've moved, but they're still in the same precinct. What do you do there? They just moved a street over.
You gotta make sure it's a certain date.
Right. They'll fill out the verification, is it voter registration verification card, and they'll put their address. Now, this voter, though, will not sign here because that information is not correct. They will sign the supplemental roster. So, again, call your county clerk when you have questions. They'll be able to walk you through it. But the paper supplemental roster at this time is not going away. And let me tell you why. Our county clerks have a lot of responsibilities. They do a lot of things. They keep track of a lot of things. There's a lot of data that goes into the voter registration file. We love our precinct election officers. We think you're awesome. But we do not want to have you go into the system and put in changes. And that's not what the touchpads do. Again, the touchpads, all they're giving us is a signature and whether they checked in, okay? And so that's all the information. We don't want to put the stress on you and the stress on the county clerks to have to verify all this information that goes in. So the supplemental roster, as of right now, will always be there for those type of situations. Does that make sense? Okay, so we've got, looking at Meryl Streep, she is who she says she is. Get voter signature, same thing. Now, when we go to issue ballot, this was the thing that she was talking about over here. Do you all have paper and electronic? Paper and electronic? All paper. Trimble County will only have a paper choice. So you don't have to worry about. You have paper and electronic? Both. So it is going to default, if you have both, to paper. It will default to whatever your primary is. Does that make sense? I mean, for Fayette County, it's always going to be electronic right now. For you all, I think it will default to paper, but you can pick electronic. Yeah. So that's one thing your precinct election officers will have to check on. And it doesn't change anything from what you're doing in here. How many people love counting up all the marks, all the signatures in the roster book at the end of the night? Is it the best thing in the world?
Oh, yes.
It is so much fun. What this will do at the end of the night is track it for you. And so if you're electronic or if you're paper, it's going to say this is how many paper ballots we gave out. So I think that will be something that will decrease the time before you get to go home.
I can't hear real good back here, but did I understand that they're gonna mark whether they had a paper ballot or the electronic machine?
It is going to default to your paper ballot, but if you have somebody that wants to vote on the electronic, you just,
So the precinct officer has, yeah, we have to tell them.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Because that way you're able to track, I mean, electronic, you don't track how many you give out. You do, but you don't. The paper, you do have to audit at the end of the night and make sure that the numbers match up.
Did you say this and I missed it, how that gets indicated on that machine if the default is paper, and they choose electronic? We have to make that indication on that machine, right?
Right.
Did I
Not
miss-
on the machine, on this.
On the tablet.
Right. I'll go back to another one. Okay, so this time I'm going to say this person came with a credit card. So I can't scan them. So you're going to hit manual voter search. The recommendation, here is the same thing that you have on the precinct roster. It is select what they showed up with, what their form of ID was. If you scan them in with a driver's license, it automatically picks driver's license. So you skip that screen. But here we're going to say this person showed up with a credit card and continue. Now, if I do not select anything, it will not let me continue. So this is another thing that sometimes gets left off of the paper rosters. This will not get left off. So you hit continue. 3 and 3. Most people are going to be able to look, you're going to be able to find their name or at least narrow down their name by just doing the first 3 letters of the last name, first 3 letters of the first name. Now, obviously, if it's a John Smith, you might have to do a little bit more. Obviously, it's going to have a lot of people probably brought up anyway. But here we have last name R-O-B, first name J-U-L, and you're going to hit search. Okay, this is kind of a neat little screen because this will show you how many Julia Roberts you have in that precinct. Right, in this instance, it says only 1. You could have multiple, and in that situation, you'd look for, either at the birth date or the address to confirm which voter you're checking in. Now, green is in this location, if you see right here in the middle. Red, not in this location. So in this situation, you have somebody that, these are how many people are registered in this jurisdiction. So in this county. Obviously, it's, this is a test mode, but if somebody comes in and checks in and you don't find them, you might be able to say, oh, look, they're actually registered in E101. So we'll go over how to redirect a voter here in a minute. But so that's how you're going to do a manual lookup. So if we confirm that this is who she says she is, wants to vote, you go to continue. How many people have had a confidential voter in their county? There's not a whole bunch of them, but people that have been victims of domestic violence or have issued, they're allowed to register to vote. Their address is going to appear as a state capital address, and this is protecting that person's identity. So if you had one of those, this is what it would look like. It's pretty much the same as just a regular voter, except for you don't get their address. Same thing on the screen. You've got a birth date, you've got the precinct and party. Go to get signature. It's going to tell you issue ballot or sign again. Initials. And this is going to tell you the ballot style down that bottom left corner if you have more than one ballot style in your county. Okay, let's find somebody that shows up at the wrong precinct. I wish I could see better. Okay. Okay, I'm going to pick scan because it's easier. Okay, it shows up with a red line. The touchpads do a really good job of kind of letting you know when you need to be worried, when it needs to be, either caution, stop, or go, what you see on the screen. So you see a red here. So let's say this shows up. What would you ask the voter? Yeah, ask for their address. If their address is correct, this is the thing that's really cool about the touchpads. Well, there's a lot of things. But did you get to use this?
Yes, we did.
And what did you think? Okay, if you are connected to the Mifi, it's still going to give you the correct address. But if you're connected to the Mifi, it's going to give you look at redirect. They say, yes, this is me. Oh my goodness, that's right. I moved. I forgot. I just came back here. Redirect voter. It's going to tell you what actual precinct they're supposed to be in, and it's going to give you the address. How many people have had to call their county clerks in the past to go get the address? 100 times. This will give you the address. You won't have to call the county clerk. That's one less thing they have to stress out over on election day. If you're connected to the Mifi, it will allow you to text or email them directions. It makes it, in this day and age, I mean, if you have a smartphone, being able to plug that in and know exactly where to go to is wonderful. You can also, look up the directions and you'll turn it around. If they'd say, I don't have a smartphone, they can write it down, take it with them. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you scan their driver's license, which if they have whatever address is on their driver's license, unless they filled out a card, is what we're gonna do. All right, so they tell you, I don't live there anymore. If they do, then do you put in the address, or how does it come up with that?
Now, that's if they don't live at the address that's in the VRS on the database, we won't be able, they're still going to have to call the county clerk. Okay?
But so what you just demonstrated is they had the correct address on the driver's license?
Their address is correct, and they just went to the wrong precinct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Which happens more than you really think would happen. Okay, so in this situation, we're not connected to the Mifi because we're in training mode. But again, in production mode on election day, it will give you that information. Okay, so you have redirected the voter. They're off to go vote wherever they're supposed to be, and you're moving on. Do y'all have any questions so far about it? Yes?
Yeah, maybe I didn't catch it. The difference in this assumes that they're gonna use a paper ballot, but let's say they want to use the electronic.
Yeah, okay.
What happens?
Yeah, it's real simple. Let's see, let me find another. Okay, so let's ignore this person shows up with an authorization to vote. They were a military absentee. So you go ahead, get their voter signature, done, and now you're ready to issue the ballot. Okay, over the green and blue, left side, middle of the screen, this is where you have the two choices. It defaults to whichever one is more typical in your county, or it only has one if you only have a certain type of machine. So if they say, no, I want to do the electronic, I hate, paper ballots scare me, whatever the reason, you can all you do is you hit electronic, and that's it. So you just press the other button.
But nobody in this county likes to vote on the electronic. They all want the paper, and I don't blame them, but
And that's why we default to the more likely.
in Fayette County, like she said, they all have the e-scan. That's all they vote on in Fayette. And not the e-scan, the
E-slate,
The
yeah.
e-slate, that's all they vote on.
Yes. I'm just going to smile. That is all we have, although there, yes.
Vicki's actually our clerk, and she will sign her name when she gets there, but what happens if she was to have to go to the bathroom for a while?
We'll go over that now. We'll go over that now. Okay, so we've confirmed this voter. We're checking him in. Uh-oh, it's 12 o'clock. I need to go run out. Either grab food, go to the bathroom, not grab food.
We don't want to say run out.
Okay, we've got to go to the bathroom. You all have to go to the bathroom. I think, clerks, you allow them to go to the bathroom, right? So, in that situation, over here in the right top corner is kind of your menu bar. This is, you really don't go into this unless you're taking a break and somebody else is coming in, or you're end of the day. So you're going to press on that, and you're going to hit, believe it or not, log out. Now, in this situation, you are not closing the election. So you see, you've got three choices: cancel, close the election, or log out temporarily. If you log out temporarily, it's going to take you back to the start screen. So same thing, you're going to go in, put in the new person's name, and go about your business. And it takes you right back to the screen. Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good question, because even though you could just stay logged in, I would prefer, and I think your county clerks would prefer, to be able to say, okay, who's actually touching the machine right then? Yeah.
That's something I learned, because we didn't do that. We just used the initial.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed logged in, but he used his initials.
And you do have the initials so you can differentiate, but I think it just kind of gives it more credibility. If right, yeah, I think that allows for your clerk to be able to say, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. it was so and so. And when you're checking them in, if you don't do the driver's license scan and you do personal acquaintance, it won't be the clerk, it's the person who is the personal acquaintance who would give the initials. So if you have your sheriff or, oh, that's my wife, you know, he would come over and put his initials.
Right.
I mean, I think that's probably exactly what you do right now. It really is exactly what you do right now. It's just a little bit easier. A lot easier.
To show their driver's license, so why would you even need to do that if they didn't have a driver's license?
If they didn't have a driver's license, yeah. I mean, right.